So today is Sunday. It is Hey Elul.
Number 5.
Hey Elul Tafshin Ein Gimel. We're in Sefer Mamar Tafshin Yud Aleph Tafshin Yud Beis. Thursday Menachem Sefer Mamar Tafshin Yud Aleph Tafshin Yud Beis. We are in the Maimer. We're just starting at the beginning of the Maimer of Shabbos Bereishis Tafshin Yud Beis. Dibur Hamaschil Vayikach Havaye Elokim. Page Kuf Nun Hey. You with us?
Yeah.
Page Kuf Nun Hey. Vayikach Havaye Elokim es Adam, and Hashem took the man, Vayanicheyu, and He placed him began Eden in the Garden of Eden, le'ovda, to work it, u'l'shomra, and to guard it. Pasuk in Parshas Bereishis. We need to understand Mahu Inyan le'ovda u'l'shomra began Eden. What is the idea of working it and guarding it within the Garden of Eden? Dihine. Bish l'maha inyan le'ovda, because he says, and the Rebbe elaborates. Granted, so far as the idea of the working the garden, although the Garden of Eden is the spiritual dimension of the physical dimension, I'll explain that in a second. Nonetheless, there needs to be an addition of divine light, divine energy, added to divine energy, over and above what exists in the Garden of Eden naturally, vizehu inyan la'avda, which is signified in the idea of la'avda working the Garden of Eden, which means what? Lahamshich tesefes began Eden, to draw down additional divine light, divine energy into the Garden of Eden. If you remember, we learned in the Maimer previously, in the Maimer of Pashas Pinchas, in Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe discussed the idea of Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. Usually we are accustomed to when we talk about Gan Eden, we're talking about the place where the neshamas go, the souls go after they pass on to receive their reward. But of course, here we're talking about the Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, when Hashem created the world. The Garden of Eden was a physical place in the physical world, where there was heightened revelation, heightened godly revelation. So it was the spiritual within the physical. That was Gan Eden. Gan Eden was a place where godliness was revealed. Okay, and that's where Hashem placed Adam. And He placed him there to work the Gan Eden and to guard the Gan Eden. So the Rebbe says, working the Gan Eden, I understand what that means. It doesn't only mean the physical, toiling and planting and weeding and pruning and so on and so forth. We're talking about a spiritual work, spiritual service. So He put him in there for the purpose of spiritual service, to draw down additional divine energy, divine light in the Gan Eden. That's the idea of Avda, to work it. The L'shamra signifies to guard it. What does the L'shamra mean, to guard it in this sense? Aval inyan L'shamra. But when we talk about the L'shamra guarding the Garden of Eden, so the concept of guarding, guarding means you have to guard against an alien invasion, so to speak, something that comes to harm. That's what you guard against. Davar amazik, something that harms. Davar amakalkal, something that spoils. V'davar she'enim masim, or generally something that is just not fit to be there. That's the idea of guarding. Well, the chura, it would seem, says the Rebbe, ein ze shaykh b'Gan Eden. This idea of guarding against something which is inappropriate is not relevant in the Garden of Eden. Why? Because the Garden of Eden shekulei tov. The Garden of Eden is completely good. Ve'ein no yisayvil metzias es metzias hara. The Garden of Eden does not tolerate the existence of anything bad. Shalachain, therefore, and it's because of this, because of the fact that the Garden of Eden is such a place where the good is to such an extent that it cannot tolerate, it rejects. It's like when a foreign object comes into the body rejects it naturally. It doesn't tolerate it. So to the Garden of Eden, because it is all good, totally good, it doesn't tolerate anything negative, anything bad. Therefore, after the sin of when Adam ate from the tree of knowledge, that's why man was judged to be banished from the Garden of Eden. Why? Because the Garden of Eden is such a place, such an entity, that it does not tolerate the existence of bad. So it wasn't just, as it says in the, it's not just that this was a punishment that Hashem chose in order to banish him, because he ate from the man ate from the tree of knowledge, he banished him from Garden of Eden. It was a result, because by not listening to Hashem, he introduced something into the Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden, which the Garden of Eden naturally does not tolerate. Therefore, the punishment was rejection. He was banished automatically. If that's the case, whilst Adam is in the Garden of Eden, what's the idea? Why is it necessary to guard it? To guard it against what? It's an entity that does not tolerate bad. As soon as bad is introduced into the Garden of Eden, it rejects it automatically. What's the point? So what are you guarding against? That's the Rebbe's question.
So what about the snake? Was the snake not evil?
Not originally. Not originally. Originally he was a Shamash Gadol.
So when God did become evil, why
He was punished.
Rejected?
He was also punished.
His legs were taken.
Sorry?
His legs were taken away.
Yeah, he was punished. Whether he was banished from the Garden of Eden.
It's an old question, because if you didn't have a Yetzer Hara, which implies that evil existed, how did he...
Well, evil did exist. We discussed this also in one of the previous Shiurim.
It was a layer.
If you remember.
It was the layer below Gan Eden.
Correct. It was the Arizal says not only below Gan Eden, but Tachas L'Kol Ha'olam. It was in the abyss.
Yeah.
The only thing that happened was what was introduced was awareness, and that awareness caused Adam to stray and to introduce to draw.
To be aware of something, it has to
No, but I thought Adam knew, he was aware, as you say, he was aware of everything. He was aware of the implications of his actions. He knew what he was doing.
Right, and
so he could see everything. Everything was transparent to him. Everything was as it really was meant to be. And he made the choice, because he thought that he could deal with the situation.
What happened when he ate from the tree of knowledge was he became aware.
He lost. When he ate from the tree, then he lost the duality of the awareness, the spirituality and the physicality all being into one. He lost the duality, and he only saw
The physical.
yes. So then he lost his spirituality element. He had plurality. He had both elements into one prior to it, and then afterwards he lost his the spiritual side of revelation, of being able to see everything in its spiritual form. That was taken away. But he knew that was going to happen.
Okay, but the nekuda, the point is, be that as it may, wherever the klipa existed before. I mean, it's the age-old question. In fact, I quoted to you, if you remember last time, from the Medrash Tanchuma on the pasuk V'Yosef Churud Mitzrayim. Medrash Tanchuma says, quotes a pasuk in Tehillim, Neira Alila B'nei Adam. God brings about great schemes upon man. And the Medrash goes through three scenarios. One of them is exactly this. You are the Medrash says that Hashem created man, and man brought death into the world because he didn't follow Hashem's instructions. Right? So the Medrash says, what do you mean? It says in the pasuk that the Malach HaMavos, the angel of death, was created on the first day of creation. So the Medrash says, if it was man that was responsible for death, for introducing death to the world, why did Hashem create the angel of death on the first day of creation, obviously he anticipated that something is going to happen that will necessitate the services of that angel. So why are you blaming man? Then the same thing the Medrash says about Yosef, that the brothers were the ones that were blamed for causing Yosef to go down to Egypt. The Medrash says that you've anticipated it already, because Yaakov Avinu had to go down to Egypt anyway in order for the Jews to go into exile, and this was a scheme, a way to get them there, so to speak. So to concerning Moshe Rabbeinu was punished not to go into Eretz Yisrael because he hit the rock. But in fact, it says when it came to the Meraglim, to the story of the spies, right, which preceded the story of Moshe Rabbeinu smiting the rock. It says that after they came back and they said that they shouldn't go to Israel, God swore that none of these men are going to see the land. So it says, "Imire ish ba'anoshim," a man among these men. So who's Ish? Says the Medrash. Ish is a reference to Moshe, because Moshe is called Ish. Va'ish Moshe Anav Ma'od. Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person. So in other words, he says, you already promised them that Moshe is not going into Israel. It was a premeditated situation from before. So why are you blaming that he smote a rock? God causes schemes to take place for man to end up doing certain things for certain events that take place. But this is a very, very long, age-old question in terms of how that works with free choice. Very, very long topic in Chassidus, in Jewish philosophical works, and also in Chassidus. The prime source, which is quoted very often by the Rebbe, is a Maimer of the Mittel Rebbe, the second Lubavitcher Rebbe, in Teres Chaim, V'yitin Lecha. Maimer V'yitin Lecha. Chumash Bereshis, where he talks at length about this topic of free choice, how Hashem's knowledge of events before they will happen is no contradiction to man actually choosing free choice. That there's a disconnect between that consciousness and the consciousness of man, but ultimately things work out the way they should, notwithstanding the fact that God knows what is going to happen, as it were. But that's a separate subject. In terms of Gan Eden and the Metzias Hara, the way that Arizal says, as you rightly say, what that Arizal says is that before Adam Rishon sinned with the sin of Eitz Hadas, the Klippos did exist, as we just explained. Malach Mavis is the ultimate symbol of Klippa that existed already on day one, but it was Al Pnei Tehom, it was in the abyss. And when Hashem said, "Don't eat from the tree of knowledge," and he ate from the tree of knowledge, right? He drew the Klippa into the consciousness of the world. It now became mixed with the consciousness of the world. Klippa inherently, on its own, doesn't have the ability to exist. In other words, it expires. It's an existence that, on its own, wilts and dies away. It can only continue to live if it latches onto Kedusha, onto holiness. So because of the fact that Adam Rishon sinned, he sort of drew it into the consciousness of the world and into his own consciousness, so it latched onto Kedusha, as it were, to holiness. So therefore the punishment was death. Man had to die. Why? Again, following along the same idea that it was a consequence rather than like every punishment is a consequence. It was a consequence because Klippa couldn't continue to exist. So what has to happen? Now that Klippa latched onto Kedusha, to holiness, so man has to die so that Klippa can come to an end. And therefore when Mashiach is going to come, and the Klippa, the spirit of evil and the spirit of impurity will be banished from the face of the earth, right? There will be no more Klippa, no more the opposite of Kedusha, only holiness and godliness. Therefore, man will live forever, because it's a consequence rather than a reward, if you will, or like every reward, which is a consequence of a positive action. But
sorry to ask another question.
Yeah.
How does Gan Eden fit into the order of creation in Ishtalshus? What was its
which Gan Eden? This Gan Eden, or
yeah, the original Gan Eden?
The original Gan Eden is a physical place in this physical world, wherever it's located, someplace in the Middle East. In Asiya. It's as you said before. It's the connection between Asiya Gashmis and Asiya Ruchnius. It's a metaphor for that would be Beis Hamikdash, for example, right? Okay, so Gan Eden, that was the place where Hashem's Shechina, as we said, Ikir Shechina betachtonim Moisa. Before man sinned, the main presence of the Shekhinah was in the lowest realm. Where? In Gan Eden. What happened after man sinned? That was pushed away.
It wasn't a suburb of the world, it was the whole world was Gan Eden.
It wasn't. No.
Only two people lived in it. I mean,
Yes, but it wasn't the whole world, because obviously he banished them from there. It was the pinnacle of the world. Just like the Beis HaMikdash is the pinnacle of the world. Gan Eden was replaced by the Beis HaMikdash, ultimately. Because as he says, when the Tzaddikim came and drew the Shekhinah back down, where was the main revelation of the Shekhinah then? In the Beis HaMikdash. Right? So be that as it may, Gan Eden is a place that does, the physical Gan Eden was a place that does not tolerate the opposite of Kedusha. So therefore, as soon as man sinned and introduced the opposite of Kedusha in one way, shape, or form or another, either through the awareness or whatever, however it might be, it rejects Klippa automatically.
Why don't you Adam and Rishon die immediately then? It had serious consequences, but how could he continue living?
Klippa also doesn't die immediately. Klippa has a lifespan, as it were. But because let's put it this way. The only true form of life is God. He's called the God, the living God. Why? Because he lives. He just lives. That's it. Lives past, present, and future all the time, from the beginning of all time to the end of all time. True existence is only something that really and truly always exists, right? So, Klippa is an entity which inherently it comes into existence and then it dies away. It wilts and dies away. It has no sustained life. Therefore, even when it is alive, it isn't really truly alive. The only way it could have sustained life is by latching on to Kedusha. The fact that it could live for 100 years or 1,000 years, fine. But it does come to an end. Right? So therefore, because you cleave to Hashem your God, you're alive today. What does that mean? Because we are connected to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter lives forever, so we are truly alive. The fact that we pass away, what happens to the Neshama, for example? Neshama continues to live. Right? Okay, so this is the question that Rebbe asks. So the Rebbe goes on and says like this: this will be understood, chapter 2, page Kuf Nun Hey. Behektim hayudua, first by prefacing that which is known. Sheklolos say that hayishtalshalos, generally the chain order of creation, nechlak legimel inyanim, is divided into three concepts, if you will, three matters, three components. Olam, Shana, Nefesh. The world, time, and the soul. Or space, time, and life. Going from the lowest level to the highest, going from the bottom up, as it were. The general chain order of creation and existence is founded on these three components. Where is this from? This is from the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation. In the Book of Formation, these three ideas are explained. Why? Mishum shehem yesod kol ha'ishtalshelus, because they are the foundation of the entire chain order of creation. Just a word on Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation. The Book of Formation is already mentioned in the Talmud. The Gemara says, I don't remember which tractate it is, but it says like this: that Reb Chanina and Rav Oshia, two sages, Talmudic sages, were sitting the whole Erev Shabbos, and they occupied themselves in the Book of Formation, and they created a calf. Also, the Talmud says that the Rava created a person. And Rashi explains this was through the Book of Formation, which he learned, and he learned the different combinations of Hashem's name, and that's how he created man. We know that the big tzaddikim, I think the Maral Meprog, when he created the Goyim, I think also used these types of formulas. But anyway, Chazal say also that the sages say that Bezalel, the one that was responsible for building the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert, was familiar with these combinations of the letters through which the heavens and the earth were created. We know that letters and names is divine energy. If you know what you're doing, you can affect things to happen. And he learned it, and our sages say that this is taught in the Book of Formation. So, who was the author of Sefer Yetzirah? Many authentic sources say that it was Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was the author of Sefer Yetzirah. This is brought in Sefer Avodas HaKodesh. One of the early Kabbalists, he lived in about 600 years ago. He also says that he learned it from Shem, the son of Noah, who taught him Sefer Yetzirah. But that wasn't enough for Avraham, so God added more wisdom to him. The Zohar mentions also the 10 spheres of Yetzirah of Avraham Avinu. So there's also a reference in the Zohar to something which seems the book of the 10 spheres of Yetzirah of Avraham Avinu. So from the Zohar also it seems that it was Avraham Avinu. The others say, anyway, a lot of sources say it was Avraham Avinu, that he learned it from Shem, the son of Noah. Some say it was Rabbi Akiva. The Megal HaMukis brings that it was. Some say it was Rabbi Akiva. The Megal HaMukis says that he gives some kind of a fusion of these two opinions. He says that Avraham Avinu taught Sefer Yetzirah, but ultimately it was forgotten, and Rabbi Akiva again revived it and explained it. But that Sefer Yetzirah goes back to the very, very early times, and it could even be going back to Adam, the first man. Where did Noah get it from? So it goes back very, very close to the beginning of creation. So anyway, Sefer Yetzirah, by the way, it's not a very long book. I forgot how many words it is, but it's not long at all. It's also known to us from the Bar Mitzvah Ma'amer, where the boy says, "B'shleisha devarim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zelomei, b'sefer v'sefer v'sipur." That's also from Sefer Yetzirah. Anyway, so this is Sefer Yetzirah. So Sefer Yetzirah discusses these three component parts. Olam, Shana, Nefesh. I think that's actually how the Sefer Yetzirah begins. Olam, Shana, Nefesh. I think it's the opening words of the Sefer Yetzirah. Be that as it may, what are these three ideas? To explain these three concepts in short. When you say Olam, the world, this is the idea of space. What is space? The Hainu, Vav Ktzavis. The 6 edges. Right? Right, left, forward, backward, up and down. Daled Ruches, the 4 sides of the world, and up and Omayla Mata, and up and down. This is the physical 6 edges, as it were. There's also the idea of space in the spiritual sense, Hakshurim Gashmis. In the spirituality which is connected to the physical, there is also space. Right? And he's going to explain. Since we're talking about a spiritual dimension which is grasped by the physical, we're talking about such a spirituality which has a grasp and a comprehension in the physical. It's apprehended by the physical. It's also understood that in this dimension of spirituality, there is also the concept of the 6 edges. And he gives an example. The Yuvans and Mekechas and Nefesh. This will be understood from the faculties of the soul. The Hinei. The soul, also as it is above, in other words, before it clothes itself in the body, when it's detached from the body, it also has faculties. The soul has the ability, the faculty of seeing, hearing, and walking, for example. Even when it's a spiritual soul, completely spiritual, not clothed in the body. How do we know that? Because if it comes into the body and it is able to see, hear, and walk, obviously, in the spiritual sense, it has the powers to do that as well. What's the idea of seeing spiritually? So he explains the what is the faculty of seeing in the soul as it is above? This is similar to that which our sages say in the Talmud. Although he doesn't see it, his mazel sees it. That sometimes there are things that are called out from the heavens, and the soul, as it's clothed in the body, doesn't feel it, doesn't see it, but the soul, as it is above, does see it, right? And Chassidus explains that it's from those things that the person sometimes has awakening for tshuva, for example, to repent, and things that a person can't explain, that the person is suddenly stirred by something. That's because of the effect from the mazel, meaning the soul as it is above, that sees something extraordinary taking place above, and has some impact on the soul the way it is in the body, even though in the consciousness of the person they can't really connect it to that because the person doesn't see it. So the soul above sees, seeing obviously in a completely different mode of seeing as it is in the physical sense. When the soul descends below, top of page then the sight of the soul as it is within the physical human being's body, what does the soul see now? Only physical matter. So too it's concerning the power of hearing. What's the idea of hearing? Just like seeing, it says the mazel sees the godliness and sees those extraordinary events. So too the hearing of the soul, the power to hear, the faculty of hearing, as the soul is above, it hears these announcements that are made. We learn in the Mishnah and the Talmud that on every day, or some days, an announcement comes out from the heavens. Who hears that? We don't hear the announcements of heaven as we are below. The neshama, the part of the neshama that's above, hears those announcements, those godly announcements. But when the soul descends below, the faculty to hear, once the soul comes down below and clothes itself in the body, it only hears physical things. But concerning spiritual matters, it does not have the power to hear. Therefore, in order to hear the celestial announcements, it's not enough the ray of the soul as it is clothed in the body. There's also the necessity for the very essence of the soul. For the essence of the soul to hear those announcements or to see those extraordinary events, right? And because the soul in the body is ultimately connected to the essence of the soul, it stirs. But from its unconscious or from its subconscious, without any knowledge why it's suddenly being stirred. V'nimtza. What comes out from all of this? That once the soul descends down here below, its faculties change. There's a change. What's the change? That now it has a relationship to physical things. Before the soul did not have a relationship to physical things. Once the soul comes into the body, comes below, the faculties change. In which way? That suddenly they are now able to relate to physical things, physical phenomena. Umizem move on from this. It's understood. From this it's understood that in the spiritual dimension, as it is clothed in the physical aspect, it also has these 6 edges. Why? Because it's a level of spirituality which is apprehended by the physical, and it changes to the extent that it is now able to experience physical phenomena. So the constraints of the physical phenomena, the framework of the physical phenomena, is now related also to the spiritual aspect as it's clothed in the physical aspect, in the physical phenomena, and therefore these 6 dimensions also have a place in this spiritual aspect as it is clothed in physical phenomena. Stop here, continue Mr. tomorrow.